And that's why Steve Universe beats Vox. Oh wait, how did we get here? Every now and then, the beautiful minds on the internet will come together to pit Steven Universe against a villain that's outside of his usual wheelhouse. A few years ago, it was Jack Horner, and recently, thanks to Hazbin Hotel Season 2, it's Vox. With a unanimous understanding that, unlike Charlie, Steven would waste no time kicking his ass. But I don't think y'all understand just how good of a matchup this really is. Steven and Vox are pretty good foils of each other. They share an impressive ability to unite and empower people, specifically with songs, inspiring the oppressed to fight for their future and liberate themselves. However, whereas Steven uses this skill to defend his home, Vox uses it to attack and invade the homes of others. Steven's someone who, at a point, has a lot of people relying on him, and he has a habit of putting those loved ones before himself, at the detriment of his own well-being. Vox is someone who relies on everyone around him, yet never puts anyone before himself. He doesn't really subscribe to the idea of personal sacrifice. He'll use and abuse anyone if it means getting what he wants. Steven tries to resolve trauma. Vox exploits and actively creates trauma. These two characters would have great interactions and an even greater fight, especially when you realize that Steven's powers are perfect for taking on the so-called god of entertainment. But how would these two even end up in the same room? Steven's on Earth, sometimes in space. Vox is literally in hell, trapped in the underworld. But with a little bit of imagination, you could get this to work pretty easily. And pretend like this is happening in between these two episodes of Hazbin. It just makes the most sense. And I guess the Steven Universe side of things would fit best in between I Am I Monster in the future. Vox is able to pirate channels from heaven, right?
Vox Tech has been pirating Heaven's television channels for decades.
So it's not unlikely he'd also have access to Earth's channels and has been keeping tabs on their overall affairs. He's clearly been in the loop of technological advancements and the like. So one day, he's watching Channel 6, laughing at how dumb humanity is, when suddenly, he sees a commercial.
Have you been feeling lost and confused in this new era? Then come on down to Little Homeschool!
Vox does a spit take. Is this real? This isn't some CGI bullshit? Also, you are not getting good impressions out of me. Where are my voice actors at? Let's get a cast going for the next one. What are those things? Hippies? Aliens? Why do some of them look so horny? Vox embarks on a deep dive, trying to learn all he can about gems. And he is fascinated. He finds Ronaldo's blog, Peridot's Twitter account, and even Steven's TubeTube channel. They're like robot soldier slaves from another planet? You know, Mammon's getting a little pricey with those fizzies nowadays. I bet I could reverse engineer these fuckers and show up to Heaven's Gate with an army way stronger than these boring ass sinners. I just need to get my hands on one. Invested in this project, but needing to keep up appearances, Vox turns to Imp, paying them a pretty penny to portal over to Little Homeworld, mingle with the locals, and prove a couple of gems that they then bring back to Vox Tech. It goes horribly wrong. The plan falls apart almost immediately, and they get their asses kicked. But they do make it back to hell with one gem in their possession, Peridot. The scientists at Vox Tech are able to scam Peridot's gem before she reforms, and by the time she's back in action, she finds herself trapped in V Tower. Vox emerges from the shadows and cuts to the chase. You must be Peridot. It's an honor to meet you. Look, I don't want to beat around the bush. If you want to go back home, then I need you to tell me everything there is to know about Gemkind. Peridot's jaw drops, her eyes widen, and she begins to smile. I thought no one would ever ask.
Several song-filled hours later.
Yeah, Vox gets what he wanted, but he's ready to kill himself.
What we do here is go back.
Need something to throw on while you draw, study, or sleep? Roundtable Rewind's got you covered. So why not take a stroll down memory lane and subscribe?
No one can tell me what to do.
See you there. After commencing various trials and working employees around the clock, Vox manages to make some decent progress on his bargain bin gems. But it's brought to his attention there's only so much they can emulate, as Peridot is from Era 2. So while she has most gem abilities, she can't shapeshift, weapons are probably off the table. And while we know Peridot has metal powers, she doesn't seem to possess any elemental abilities. Vox knows that if he's gonna perfect this little pet project, he's gonna need to scan someone from Era 1. So he sends Imp back to get more gems. I'd like to think they'd refuse another ass kicking, but Vox threatens them into following through. However, as soon as they make a portal, a gigantic gauntlet decks Blitz smack dab in the face. The crystal gems, Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, and Steven emerge from the portal. Don't worry about Bismuth or Lapis. It wouldn't be Steve Universe if they weren't MIA.
I told you they'd be back.
Amethyst quips. Pearl gives a nervous laugh.
Yes, well, I thought they'd be a bit wiser than to open a portal in the exact spot they left. Right in the middle of the school.
Garnet grabs Moxie and Millie by their collars.
Where is Peridot?
Steven takes a glance outside the office window.
And where are we?
We cut to the Crystal Gems steamrolling their way through V Tower, eventually find themselves in a mysterious dark chamber within Vox's quarters. A booming voice emerges from the speakers.
Well, if it isn't the Crystal Gems that I've heard so much about. So fucking much.
Steven takes a step forward.
Where's Peridot?
A cage containing their beloved teammate descends from above.
Steven, don't be mad. He used my love for info dumping against me. Get me out of here, please.
The Crystal Gems ready their weapons, prepared to leap into action. But they're interrupted by Vox before they can take another step.
Whoa, wait. You guys just got here. There's no need to take your friend home yet. I have no problem sending her back to your weird alien daycare. I'm just gonna need some
data from the four of you first. A large door behind the team slowly begins to slide up, unveiling a horde of counterfeit gems ready for combat. They don't look like any particular gem, but a mishmash, sporting the Vox Tech color palette. They also are pretty tiny, no taller than your average ruby. Confused and a little offended by these shameless knockoffs, the Crystal Gems crush Vox's little army. They're pulling out all the stops, displaying all of their offensive abilities, using every trick they've learned with their weapons and cycling through a bulk of their fusions, giving Vox exactly what he wanted, the chance to study them in real time, recording their abilities to perfect his fakes. Once they've cleared out the room, Vox makes his next move, blending his electrokinesis and technokinesis to emulate destabilization, phasing through Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl in the blink of an eye, plotting to scan their gemstones in order to fully emulate their abilities. He tries the same deal with Steven, but his human physiology prevents Vox from doing any real damage. After all, Steven can't poof. With the 3 gems out of commission and in Vox's own possession, Steven is left facing him all on his own. Vox, working off his limited information about Steven, attempts to manipulate the young man into complacency by giving him a sob story, trying to sell Steven on his noble cause. Steven is taken aback by Vox's words, hesitating before taking a deep breath and balling his hands into fist. Sorry, weird TV guy, but this isn't the answer. If you need to kidnap my friends, take advantage of their strength, and force them to fight for you, then I don't think your cause is as just as you're letting on. At this point, I know a bad guy when I see one, but I'm still going to ask you just this once. Is it possible that there's another way you can resolve whatever you're dealing with? One that doesn't need violence to? Vox erupts into laughter. Christ, what is it with all these bleeding heart types having the power of a god and doing nothing with it? Look, kid, I'm on a bit of a time crunch, so if you're not going to scratch my back, then I really don't have a choice but to fucking kill you. Steven begins sprinting towards Vox. Can anyone here speak more than 2 sentences without swearing? The two lunge towards each other and begin their brawl. All right, time out. The table's all set. Let's finally dig into what these two can do and why Steven specifically is the perfect opponent for a walking TV. We know that Vox is basically Electro. He can conduct electricity, transform into electricity, and use it as a method of transportation in numerous ways. He has enhanced strength, hypnosis, cables and wires that he can use like Doc Ock, the ability to control technology, the ability to create 3-dimensional projections. Oh, and he's immortal. Only angel weapons can do him in. Otherwise, he'll bounce back. Not to mention, he has a full-on demonic transformation where he's able to go all out. Man, Hazbin characters are busted. He got all this just from being a dirtbag serial killer in the entertainment industry. Be a terrible person, and your eternal reward is cool anime powers. Despite all this, my boy Steven absolutely gives him a run for his money. He has super strength, speed, durability, his shield, which has vibrations that's been shown to neutralize at least gem creations like Lapis' water clones and the hollow pearls. His bubbles can form spikes and be used as boxing gloves. He can bring plants and pebbles to life, has empathetic telepathy that allows him to connect to the minds of others. He can float and he can even heal, which extends to himself as his body is quick to recover from any injury. There's also his own transformation with his pink state, his body's response to extreme stress, reacting as if it was a life or death situation, heightening all of his abilities as his gem tries to figure out what he needs to survive. His shield becomes hexagonal constructs, he gains a destructive sonic scream, and under the right conditions, he can even become a Chad.
I didn't teach you that.
Steven's real advantage over Vox, however, isn't his Super Saiyan Rose impression, but an ability he's had and struggled to control over the course of the series. Electrical interference. His emotions allow him to disrupt and control television screens and even radio signals. So watch out, Alistair. He might be able to fillet you too. Steven inadvertently used this power on a few occasions. First when he witnessed Amethyst masquerading as Rose, then when he and Peridot tried to create a perfect season of campaigning hearts after learning his dreams were being projected onto his TV. And finally, numerous traumatic events are broadcast in his room during his mental health spiral at the end of Future. Not only is Vox's head a TV, but the Season 2 finale has shown us that it's vulnerable to hacking and other interruptions, so he could easily get overwhelmed and in theory, incapacitated by this ability. Even if Steven can't use it voluntarily, it tends to be triggered in stressful situations that poke at his baggage. And if anyone loves poking at baggage, it's Vox. He's a sadistic asshat. The kind of emotional distress he'd cause Steven would ultimately backfire and put him in a body bag. So let's see that play out. Time in! Vox's electrokinesis gives him the edge over Steven at the start of their battle, constantly turning into electricity to evade Steven's attacks, maneuvering around the arena through the technology that surrounds them, wearing down Steven's endurance by propelling himself right at the boy as strikes of lightning, acting as a living thunderstorm. Steven's able to protect himself by sliding around on his shield, pumping out bubbles and barriers to mitigate damage, and he even manages to land a few hits on the demon by timing his shield slinging with the exact moment Vox switches back to his physical form. It quickly becomes apparent that even one-on-one, Vox wasn't prepared to handle someone like Steven, who's able to adequately defend and attack within the same move. So using his wires, he ambushes and restrains Steven, trying to force him into submission through his hypnosis. Unfortunately for Vox, this ends up being a grave mistake that cost him the fight. His attempt at seizing Steven's autonomy triggers an unpleasant memory: his confrontation with White Diamond when he was 14 years old. Overwhelmed and feeling as if he was brought right back to those terrifying moments in White's ship, Steven begins to glow pink. Suddenly, the image of White Diamond zapping Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl hijacks Vox's TV head and the screen surrounding them, nearly causing the aspiring tyrant to collapse as he loses his grip on Steven and is momentarily stood in place. What the fuck was that? Did you just stream your trauma into my head? Steven tries to regain composure as he gets back up on his feet. I really don't have time for this. Let go of my friends and send us back home. Vox shoots a look of concern before laughing under his breath. You don't get it, do you? You're all my unbreakable toys now, fucking guinea pigs. Steven interrupts Vox with an intense rage. I said let them go! Steven unleashes a sonic scream so loud that it releases Peridot and the poof gems from their prison, and cracks Vox's face. Now in his pink form, Steven gives Vox the work, smacking him around the tower, unable to hold back. The demon can't even fully process what's happening as he's in and out of the moment, getting thrust into another one of Steven's traumatic memories with every hit. Steven's heightened emotions are triggering his electrical interference, causing Vox to become unstable and glitch out. It also corrupts the data for the Vox sex gems in the process. Vox tries to even the odds with his full demonic form, but it just isn't enough, as Steven takes advantage of his surroundings and increases his firepower by transforming the demonic flytraps into hellborn plant Stevens. Eventually, Vox is worn down enough for Peridot to get the jump on him, giving everything she has to control the metal parts of Vox's body, holding him in place long enough for Steven to throw him into the air, followed by Universe catapulting himself towards Vox. Steven punches right through Vox at such an intense speed that it decapitates him in the process, leaving Vox alive as Steven can't kill him, but without any gems of his own. Vox's fate actually brings Steven some comfort, as the sight of a giant hole in Vox's chest is definitely messing with him. It's giving him some, fragment flashbacks. Also, he's determined to never end up in hell, oh boy. Reformed and regrouped, the Crystal Gems return to Imp HQ, demanding they get portaled home and advising Imp to find a new career path. Valentino and Velvet find Vox with a smug look on their faces. Look what happens when we leave you alone for more than a few hours. You totally need us. Velvet chimes in. You were right, Alistair. Watching on the sidelines was more fun than bailing him out. The three share a laugh to Vox's dismay. Did you see the tall one's gauntlets? That looked like it hurt. And that's why Steven Universe beats Vox. Because Vox can't help but to manipulate people and self-sabotage. Trying to mess with Steven is doing both. So, moral of the story is... stop treating Steven like he's a little bitch. Alright, I really don't have a grand conclusion, but I had a lot of fun making this video, even if it was a little tedious to make. I just wanted to bring this fun little scenario in my head to life without breaking the bank. But I'll be honest, it really made me wish I did have the funding to bring on board artists and voice actors. So if you're interested in seeing another one of these videos that's able to have a bit more sauce, consider becoming a channel member or supporting the Roundtable over on Patreon. I want the videos on here to be more creatively fulfilling, and thus, entertaining for all of you at home. Alright, that's enough e-begging. Thank you Big Dream Stars for the thumbnail, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace!